Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Wayne County, Missouri. And we're going to go through Wayne County and see what history's mysteries are there for us to discover. So stay tuned, stick around with us. There's a lot going on here, and we will catch you at the other side and see what we've learned. In the old Greenville in 1840, on the road to the Old Southwest, Wappapello Lake. We're in the Greenville recreation area of Wappapello Lake. Okay. In the early 1800s, settlement began here at Old Greenville, where two ancient Indian trails converged at a point where the St. Francis River could be readily forded. By 1810, a small ferry established by the Bettis family provided an alternate means to cross the river. Cherokee and Delaware Indians traveled west to treaty lands in the Indian Territory by way of Greenville. By 1818, those ancient trails had become the main overland routes for migration to the Old Southwest, leading the wagons of pioneer settlers to what would become the states of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Annual cattle drives also crossed the river here, moving Ozark livestock to markets along the Mississippi River at St. Genevieve and Cape Girardeau. In 1820, Moses Austin rode south from Potosi, Missouri through Greenville to San Antonio, where he secured a grant from the Spanish governor for the first Anglo-American settlement in Texas. In 1835, Daniel Cloud and Peter Bailey followed Austin's route south to Natchitoches and San Antonio, where they joined in the struggle for liberty of Texas and died in defense of the Alamo. By 1835, two stagecoach lines passed through Greenville. Stagecoaches carrying passengers, freight, and mail bound for St. Louis, Cape Girardeau, and Little Rock made regular stops here at the Bedwell Tavern. The roads through Greenville remained principal western thoroughfares during the Civil War. Today, U.S. Route 67 closely follows the Old Southwest Trail, and travelers on the modern four-lane highway are following in the footsteps of history. So, if you look at this older map from 1839, here is Greenville. Then, now, with our state maps, here is Greenville. Cherokee, Trail of Tears, Bettis Ford, December 1838. During the first week of December in 1838, a group of more than 1,100 Cherokees passed through Old Greenville on their Trail of Tears journey to the Indian Territory in what is now Oklahoma. Led by John Binge, they were one of 13 groups of Cherokees displaced from their traditional homeland in the East by the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Traveling under their own supervision, nearly 16,000 Cherokees made the overland trek west during the fall and bitterly cold winter of 1838 to 1839 on what is now known as the Trail of Tears. The Binge detachment included a number of families from Willis Valley in northeastern Alabama, some of them wealthy slave owners. A few Muskogee Creeks lived among the Cherokees, also traveled west with the Binge detachment. John Binge led his detachment on a unique route to the west. After traversing Tennessee, they crossed the Mississippi River at Columbus, Kentucky. Then, following well-established roads around the swamps of southeast Missouri, they circled north through the towns of Charleston, Benton, and Jackson. When the Binge detachment reached Old Greenville with their 60 wagons and 600 horses, the diverse group had been on the road for 9 weeks and faced another 6 weeks of winter travel over rough roads. They waded across the St. Francis River here at Bettis Ford, averaging between 10 and 15 miles per day. Oh my goodness. They then crossed the Current River above Hicks Ferry on December 8th and were near Smithville, Arkansas on December 12th and at Batesville on the 15th. The Binge detachment forded the White River in Arkansas at Talbert's Ferry and then proceeded west through Fayetteville. After reaching Indian Territory, they disbanded near Stillwell, Oklahoma on January 11th, 1839. 3 births and 33 deaths were recorded during the Bench Detachment's grueling 130-day, 770-mile Trail of Tears journey to the west. The Trail of Tears National Historic Trail helps to preserve the history of the forced removal of the Cherokee Nation, as well as other southeastern Indian tribes, including the Choctaw, Muskogee Creek, Seminole, and Chickasaw, who were dispossessed by the Indian Removal Act of 1830. The Bettis Ford and Old Greenville sites are part of the Trail of Tears National Historic Trail commemorating those events. So here you see this detachment, this group of was here, gone through here, and here's Greenville right here, and then where they continued on down. So, all right, continuing here in Greenville, Missouri, we are crossing the St. Francis River. There it is, at Old Greenville. During the 19th century, travelers passing through Old Greenville had an important decision to make. How would they get across the St. Francis River? There was no bridge, so crossing the river required the use of either the ferry or the ford. The firm gravel river bottom and wide, shallow channel allowed travelers to safely use the ford for much of the year. However, during periods of high water and cold weather, fording the St. Francis River at Old Greenville was both impractical and dangerous. Cost was a factor for many travelers. The ford was free, but for a traveler on foot, the ferry cost an hour's wages, and for a 4-horse team and wagon, the fare was an entire day's pay. Those who were unable to pay for the ferry could either turn back, wait for the river to fall, or risk their lives in the current. The earliest description of the river crossing was recorded by Henry R. Schoolcraft. In 1821, he published a journal describing his travels through the Ozarks in 1818 to 1819. On January 28, 1819, when Schoolcraft arrived on the opposite shore, rather than wade across the river, he chose to employ the ferry. However, he lacked the proper coins to pay the exact 10-cent fare and found that the slave operating the ferry boat had no change. In his journal, Schoolcraft noted that the ferrymen solved their problem at a nearby oak stump, according to the Kentucky mode, where an axe was used to cut a 10-cent slice of silver from one of his half-dollar coins. The first bridge was built here in 1892 for the W.G. and St. Louis Railway. In 1899, that bridge collapsed beneath a log train. Wayne County contributed $750 to help the railroad build a replacement structure with a dual-use bridge deck that also allowed by-foot and wagon traffic. By 1908, that wooden 100-foot Howe truss bridge had deteriorated, and public outcry compelled the railroad to replace it. The railroad acquired a used steel bridge, which, when we look at the pictures, is A, and set it on new concrete piers. That relocated steel Pratt Truss Railway Bridge opened in 1909. The railroad steel bridge was not designed for dual use, so in 1911, the county contracted with Stepp Brothers Bridge and Iron Company of St. Louis for separate county road bridge. That 16-foot wide wooden deck road bridge, which will be B when we look at the pictures, remained in use until 1930. It was replaced by the State Highway Department, who acquired the railroad's then abandoned steel bridge. The Highway Department widened that old steel truss by 6 feet and built new concrete approach spans and a new road deck, converting the railway bridge for use by US 67, which is going to be C. The modified 20-foot wide former railroad bridge, C again, carried Route 67 over the St. Francis River from 1930 until 1941. In 1941, when a replacement at higher elevation became necessary due to construction of the Wappapello Dam 20 miles downstream, a new bridge with a 170-foot worn-through truss main span was built, and that's D. It remained in service for 70 years. The 1941 bridge was demolished in 2011 after completion of the current 4-lane Route 67 Express bridge, which is E. So here you can see There's A and C and where B would have been. That's the conversion of the railway bridge. And then there's A, B, and C. Building approaches in 1930. 1940, that's the converted railway bridge, C, that we talked about here. And again, that's a picture of it from the river. Oh, sorry. There it is. This is the one built in 1941. So you can see the 4-lane E that replaced it. There's the 1911 one, which was B over here. It's down. You can see that visible in the water. And there's another view of it facing south-southwest. Okay, there's the piers being built. There's C over here, and then they're building D. And then again, there's the being built there. And again, there's D. And as we move on down, Old Greenville's flood history. Greenville must, during the spring season, be apprehensive of inundation. It is situated on a plain known to have been overflowed. Captain John R. Bell, Journal of the Stephen H. Long Expedition, October 4th, 1820. All right, so there are lots of pictures with dates, and this one is in April of 1904. It's the flood of March 26 to April 2nd, 1904, seen from North Greenville. Floods were a recurring challenge for the residents of Old Greenville. During the 140-year period between the earliest settlement here and completion of the Wappapello Dam in 1940, which finally prompted a move to higher ground, Old Greenville flooded on at least 10 occasions. Damaging floods overflowed the town in April 1904, August 1915, January 1916, April 1927, May 1933, and March 1935. One of the most severe floods was on Saturday, August 20th, 1915, when water covered the streets of Old Greenville to a depth of 5 feet. Telegraphed warnings allowed the residents to prepare for the 1915 flood, but the water rose higher than expected and damage was severe. Old Greenville lacked both sewer and water supply systems. Consequently, floods were not only economic disasters, they also posed significant public health risks due to contamination of drinking water in the residents' shallow open wells. So here's 1915, the view northwest of the courthouse. And this is the Holladay house in 1927. It says here in this article, St. Francis River floods Greenville. Continuous rain causes great damage to town and county. River crops destroyed, many washouts. Sunday morning, the sun rose on a miserable, muddy scene of devastation. The streets were strewn with debris, and in every house, on everything the water had touched, from 1 to 3 inches of sticky, slimy mud was left. Sunday, August 21st, 1915, was not a day of rest in Greenville. Instead, it was a day of nervous, bustling work, for the process of cleaning up had begun. Wayne County Journal, August 26, 1915. Okay, here's the Marsh's house on Timmons Street in May of 1933. And here's an old house in Greenville during the floods of March 11th and 12th of 1935. It says here, historic flood levels marked on the Route 67 bridge to help illustrate the frequency and magnitude of past floods events at Old Greenville. The highest flood on record occurred on May 3rd, 2011, when Wappapello Lake reached a level of 400.04 feet and a torrent of water 5 feet deep cascaded over the spillway. Discharge in the lower Mississippi Valley during the flood of 2011 was a 25% greater than that during the Great Flood of 1927, which displaced more than 500,000 people and killed 250. No lives were lost during the flood of 2011, and 62% of the area that had flooded in 1927 remained dry thanks to flood control measures built following the 1927 flood, of which Wappapello Lake is a part. This rock here is marking where the Bettis Ferry was, and it was placed by the Poplar Bluff chapter of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution. And it shows you how many miles to local, or not local, not Little Rock and Natchitoches is quite a ways away, and Jackson's on this side. And over here shows you how far to Fredericktown and to St. Louis. All right, we are in Old Greenville. It is a park now and campground. Beautiful. And we are here to do a lot of markers. So we're going to start right here with the Memory Lane Trail, Old Greenville, Missouri. You can see on the sign where we're at. Got a bike trail. It's really neat, and you can even see where the streets were laid out at. So it says, "Welcome to the Memory Lane Trail." Memory Lane Trail, in the black with the gold around it, consists of about 1 mile of level, hard surface trail routed along the streets and sidewalks of the Old Greenville town site. The Memory Lane Trail is accessible for pedestrians, bicyclists, wheelchairs, and other personal mobility devices. Dogs are welcome on the trail but must be kept on a leash. Restroom facilities and potable water are available here and in the Greenville campground. Benches are located along the trail for those who may wish to stop and rest along the trail. To help visitors orient themselves within the wooded, abandoned ghost town of Old Greenville, which was from 1819 to 1941, street signs are located along the trail, and wayfinding maps can be found here and at the main corners of the trail, and they're pink dots. Memory Lane is a national recreation trail, but also includes numerous interpretive waysides devoted to various aspects of Old Greenville's history. Additional interpretive displays are located at the Bettis Ford site beside the boat launch ramp. Portions of the Memory Lane Trail along Timmons and 3rd Streets are also part of the Trail of Tears National Historic Trail. In December of 1838, a group of 1,100 displaced Cherokee Indians passed through Old Greenville during their grueling 770-mile, 103-day Trail of Tears journey to their new home in the Indian Territory in Oklahoma. Memory Lane connects with the Greenville Bike Trail, that's the pink line, a 3-mile hard-surfaced trail leading north to the modern town of Greenville. Part of the bike trail follows the historic Greenville-Fredericton Road. During the Civil War, a small skirmish was fought along the road, and that event is interpreted at the skirmish site about 1 mile north of the trailhead. All right, this is a map of Old Greenville. We're out in Old Greenville, Missouri, off the St. Francis River. And this was what the plat looked like on April 22nd, 1939. The Memory Lane Trail, this will tell you where we are right now in this map. I am not reading all these names. I'm just going to go down through here. And these are the names of businesses and people. And they are on the map. The numbers correspond. So whoever lived there or ran a business there. And you are welcome to pause and zoom in. If you're doing any type of genealogy work, this may be of interest to you. And then here's the map with the numbers of on here in black, surrounded in yellow, that correspond to all the names that were on the list. Again, you're going to have to pause and zoom in. I'm just going to give you an overview of the entire map. Old Greenville in 1940, before the Wappapello Dam was constructed to dam up the St. Francis River. And I'm just going to go down through here, and they're numbered, and show you the pictures. Again, I'm not spending a lot of time because there are lots of markers in this area. So if we don't want a 2-hour episode, I kind of have to move things along according to Edward. My love of history would have me reading everything word by word. Then the map has, you can zoom in, it has the numbers that correspond to those building photos. And here's the verbiage from this marker. Again, please pause, zoom in, read it. I'm going to just show you these signs as we go along. This one shows the changing times. It tells you when Old Greenville saw its greatest growth was after the Civil War. Timber, railroad, lots of things there. And then Hiram Holladay, when he brought the railroad and built a large sawmill and a planing mill and employed hundreds of men. Again, that's a picture of his house that was in Old Greenville. The Native Americans, though, were the first residents here, and here's a timeline of some of the things that have been found in this area they were the rightful first settlers here. In the early days, there were pioneers moving in, Spanish land grants, they were given out, and the number 727, purchased by a man named Isaac Kelly, became the town of Old Greenville. And this is where Dr. Elijah Bettis came in, and they were instrumental in developing the town, and Bettis's ford and ferry that crossed the St. Francis River. So again, I'm not reading these all, so pause and zoom in. There are a lot of markers in this area. So it does say that as a southern county of a border state, Wayne County was devastated by the Civil War. It was occupied by both Union and Confederate forces throughout the course of the war. And here on July 20th, 1862, members of the 12th Regiment Cavalry, Missouri State Militia, Union forces were attacked by approximately 300 Confederate troops. And they plundered the camp. But by early evening, Greenville was back in the hands of the Union Army. This is a site map of this area where we're walking. There are a lot of markers that we're going to be reading and showing you, which is why I'm not reading them every word. Here's the beginning of New Greenville. Remember, Old Greenville, which is gone. The St. Francis River, flooding of the river was a fact of life, and flooding occurred in many, many years. And once the Wappapello Dam was built and started gathering water, they took and relocated to higher ground. And you could see they moved the actual houses and things to what is now Greenville. This is an Old Greenville. Now they left the other stuff got torn down, but they did move houses. Over 500 soldiers from Wayne County served in World War I, and there is a monument to that. And it was transferred to the courthouse at the new town by members of the American Legion, and it's there today. In Old Greenville, food and supplies kept Old Greenville from being severely affected by the Great Depression. and Works Progress Administration, WPA, were available to provide supplemental income to members of the community. And some of the sidewalks that remain in the town, old town today, were built by WPA workers. And here's the memory lane. It just tells us all about this historic site, its historical and archaeological significance. And the old town of Greenville was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in March of 1990. And flood control legislation was key in keeping this area from flooding. And so we have the memory lane that we're going to be walking and exploring the sidewalks and foundations of a town that existed for nearly 150 years. Continuing our walk through Old Greenville, Missouri. This was apparently a company town at one time, Hiram in Holladay's company town. And this is the home called Pine Place, but he was shot to death in 1899. And this is where he owned the Williamsville, Greenville, St. Louis Railroad Depot and machine shop. That was his. And he had a company store and Methodist church. You remember the old song by Merle Travis, I owe my soul to the company store? Don't listen to me sing, I'm horrible. Sorry. But basically that's true. If you worked for his company, they would give you tokens and they were only good in his store. So, you know, that's how company stores worked. But anyway, here's some photos of the sawmill and the locomotives. And again, I'm not going to stop and read these. You can do that. But there's what the coupon book looked like. That was how they got paid. And then they would take those coupons to trade for goods. But they couldn't just, weren't given cash. That's all they could use. And he controlled the prices inside his store. But his life did end violently after midnight on May 13th, 1899. He was caught in an affair with his wife's sister and was shot to death in her bedroom by her angry husband, Monroe Johnson. He was clearly guilty, but the jurors in the Holladay murder trial felt that he had been justifiably provoked in shooting Hiram Holladay. And they ultimately convicted him of fourth-degree manslaughter, but limited his sentence to a fine of $500. And so all of these businesses and stuff was sold to his widow, and were sold by his widow to a group of outside investors for a reported $1 million. But the local economy never fully recovered after this. And this marker is about Alice J. Curtice Moyer-Wind, the Ozark suffragist. And she was a noted suffragist, writer, and politician. For the last 21 years of her remarkable life, she lived near Greenville and considered this to be her hometown. So, as I've been telling you, I am not reading every word, but I am going to go down through here, and you can pause and read. It says, all that is necessary to elect women to official positions is that men work to elect them, just as women work to elect men. And she has several other quotes here. And then here is the article on the sign, and I'm just going to go slowly. Please, there is just so much information here. Please, please, please pause and read. Well, she worked hard. And got a lot of hate mail, and she was accosted, choked, and threatened by a political opponent. Wow, after one of her speeches. Let me tell you, people, women have had to fight for everything we have. And it goes back to these women who did this back when women were not supposed to be taken seriously. She was the first woman to hold a cabinet-level post in state government. That was, wow. She championed fair wages for working women and improved working conditions for all workers, including women and children. She ran for Congress in 1924, but was dismayed to find that the local party bosses were not yet ready for a woman representative. That's her horse LaBelle. And there is a novel that she has written. And continuing on our walk through Old Greenville, this is photos of the Timmons Street Business District. And so I'm just going to show you where that is highlighted on the map. And then I'm just going to go down and show you these pictures. Please pause and zoom in. They are numbered. And then I'll give you the close-up map so you can see what they actually looked like and where they were on the map. Okay, and then here's the map where you can look at the numbers along here to match to those pictures. And this just says in the writing that when Greenville was founded in 1819, the layout consisted of this that you see here and all of the different businesses that were. All right, guys, that was Wayne County, Missouri. I don't know about you, but wow, there was a lot to unpack there. So as we continue, sorry, there was a bee buzzing around my head. As we continue this series of historical markers, stay with us. Like, comment, subscribe, all of those good things. And I'll catch you on the next episode of Historical Markers.